I'm super pumped to be bringing this list to you today, Nerd Squad. Today we get to look at some of the scariest times the supervillains actually won. Ugh, I'm so scared. As much as we all love watching our heroes save the day, isn't it nice sometimes to take a journey off the beaten path and explore the consequences of a world where our beloved supervillains got away with it? With supervillains as well being more complex sometimes than we give them credit for, are there any specific stories where you have been secretly, or maybe not so secretly, rooting for them? If there is a story we missed, be sure to let us know in the comments below. I love supervillains and I love storytelling, so without further ado, let's get counting. Number 10. Dark Reign. After the events of Secret Invasion, Norman Osborn is given control over the world's defenses after being declared a war hero. So what does he decide to do? Create his own organization to replace S.H.I.E.L.D. and his own team to replace the Avengers. Hence we see the creation of HAMMER, an acronym which stands for, well, nothing, but which Osborn just liked. And we get to see the Dark Avengers, a superhero team comprised of former villains. What ensues? A brutal attempt at heroism, one that results in a more crude and violent attempt to take out the world's enemies, and sometimes results in the world actually being placed in more danger. If you want to read more of this heroic yet villainous tale, check out Siege and the Dark Avengers series, as well as the Dark Reign Marvel-wide event. Number 9. Zombieverse. Yep. It's too horrifyingly icky for me to not include this on the list. There isn't really a supervillain in this universe per se, so fair, save for the infection itself. Though, I guess Sentry is sort of a villain for bringing it to Earth in the first place. Despite being a hero, he can be pretty villainous sometimes, especially if you're dealing with his alter ego and supervillain, the Void. This reality exists on Earth 2149 and is a nasty world where pretty much the villain in this story, the zombie virus, converts almost all of our beloved heroes into nasty, flesh-eating, obsessed zombies, which in turn kinda makes them all villains, I guess. It turns out the most successful and grossest way to corrupt heroes is by making them crave the flesh of those they are protecting. Number 8. The Killing Joke. Granted, there are many stories where the Joker appears to win, but none are quite so chilling as The Killing Joke. This controversial one-shot from DC was never meant to be canon, and yet some of the events of this comic were considered so traumatic that DC decided to incorporate them into the DC Universe continuity. Namely, that Barbara Gordon was paralyzed. The way they dealt with the portrayal of her being paralyzed is another story. The comic created a lot of controversy in regards to the graphic violence, perverted nature, and objectification that the panels involving the events surrounding Barbara embodied. Beyond that, the ending of the story was left open for interpretation. The short form is that the Joker threatens to drive Commissioner Gordon insane by crippling Barbara, kidnapping him, and terrorizing him on some carnival grounds. Batman manages to save the Commissioner, but Barbara remains paralyzed past the non-canon one-shot. Beyond that, the Joker was successful in making Batman laugh, which is somewhat terrifying in and of itself. And depending on your interpretation of the ending, the Batman either just laughs or ends up breaking the Joker's neck. Number 7. Doom Patrol in the Silver Age. An oldie but a goodie, issue 121 of Volume 1 saw the Doom Patrol meet their end at the hands of Madame Rouge and Captain Zoll. The two were able to use a submarine and travel to the island where the Doom Patrol were located, and after a scuffle, we see Captain Zoll blow them up, wiping out the entire team. The cover of this issue warned you what you were in for when it came to purchasing and reading this tale of the world's most bizarre heroes. And if you had been reading along with this series in the 60s, this issue would have been a devastating one. Barring you weren't reading to cheer on the villains, I suppose. Number 6. Watchmen. Unsuspecting villain Adrian Veidt, also known as Ozymandias, the smartest man on Earth, ends up winning at the end of the Watchmen series. If you found the series dark and realistic, the ending only highlights these overarching feels. Veidt confesses to the team after the death of 3 million people in New York that he was the mastermind behind it all, and even faked his own assassination attempt. The crazy thing is that the heroic team have the option to stop him, but seeing that exposing him would only cancel what his dastardly plan set out to do, which was actually a fairly noble goal, stop wars on a global scale, they choose not to stop him. They actually decide to work with him. Except for Rorschach, who demands better and vows that he will put an end to Veidt, even if he must do it alone by exposing him for what he really is to the world, a supervillain. However, Rorschach is taken out by Dr. Manhattan before he can do so, leaving us in a dark place at the end of this series. Number 5. Kraven's Last Hunt. Haunted by one of his greatest failures, Kraven craves to kill that which has always managed to escape him, his greatest foe, Spider-Man. The frightening thing in this comic is that he actually manages to achieve his goal. He digs a grave, sets out to hunt Spider-Man, finds him, shoots him, and buries him. To prove that he is better than his greatest nemesis ever was, he adopts Spider-Man's mantle, and through Kraven we get a version of Spider-Man who is even more violent and ruthless than Doc Ock's superior Spider-Man. What's even more chilling in this saga is that we later discover that Spider-Man was never dead. Dun dun dun! Simply shot with a drug that put him in a death-like state for a few weeks. He returns only to have Kraven gloat and confess. Darkly, the saga ends with Kraven, after accomplishing his goals, taking his own life. But don't worry, because Kraven gets resurrected anyways, so. Number 4. War Games. Batman is a brilliant detective and brilliant hero, sometimes to a fault. He has a slew of contingency plans in place to protect Gotham in the event that everything goes haywire. Great idea, right? But not such a great idea when other people get their hands on them. The 2005 series titled Batman War Games explores such an instance. In this story, his Robin at the time, Stephanie Brown, who is probably one of the shortest runs in the role as his sidekick, finds and enacts one such plan intended for what the city of Gotham is up against, an insane outbreak of gang violence. The plan is to call a meeting of all the gang leaders wherein they would be aligned under a single mob boss, Matches Malone. What Stephanie doesn't know is that Malone is an alias of Batman's. When he doesn't show up to the meeting, it results in her death and the creation of a crime syndicate wherein the gangs all unite under the rule of Black Mask. Number 3. Knightfall. Shortly after his first appearance in DC Comics in Batman Vengeance of Bane in 1993, we get to see this villain reappear in Knightfall, wherein he is met with almost immediate success. In regards to his supervillain history, Bane escapes prison and wreaks havoc on Gotham by heading over to Arkham Asylum and setting all the maximum security prisoners there just free. Batman is then forced to run around Gotham fighting them all and rounding them back up, and then comes the big boss fight. Once Batman is sufficiently exhausted, Powerhouse Bane steps up to knock him down a peg, or more specifically, break his back. This leaves Batman out of commission for a while, and he is forced to pass the Bat mantle on to someone else for a time. This would make an excellent dungeon crawl board game, by the way. Think of the minis! Number 2. Infinity War. I couldn't have a list without including one of the most breathtaking villain stories probably of our lifetime. The MCU's Infinity War. That's right, as awesome as the comic book saga also was, I'm sticking to the cinematic version for this one. A story that was expertly woven, in which after years of plotting, Thanos is fully revealed as the big bad of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We see him round up Infinity Stones left, right, and center, struggling to get them but always prevailing. And right when he is about to snap everyone out of existence, we all sit poised on the edge of our seats, waiting for someone to put a stop to him. Star-Lord, racked with emotion. Iron Man, stabbed. Doctor Strange, wow, opposite of helpful, just gives him the stone. Cap? Shout versus fist. Fist beats the shout. Scarlet Witch? Without her full chaos magic powers, the time stone stops her easy. Thor? Say it with me. Should have gone for the head. And then snap. Just like that. 50% of the superheroes that you loved, gone. Ouch. Number 1. Emperor Joker. What happens when you combine Mr. Mixie and Joker? Why, Emperor Joker, of course. In this storyline, we explore a reality where the Joker ends up with 99.99% of Mr. Mxyzptlk's power. Mr. Mixie only intended to donate 1% of his power to the Joker, but after being tricked into revealing his true name, is forced to give him almost all of it. That tricksy Joker. As a result of this, Joker is able to do all sorts of insane things, and I really do mean insane things. Not only is the Joker now able to warp reality and is omniscient as well as virtually omnipotent, but the powers he received also amplify his madness. So, if you thought he was crazy before, well, think again. Thanks so much for watching, nerds. I hope you found a story or two to draw you in and that might inspire you to cheer or fear some of the greatest supervillains in comics. I know I both cheer and fear the Joker, that's for sure. Now I toss it back to you. Feel free to share in the comments below any supervillain stories that are your favorite and that we may have missed on this list. And while you're heading towards the comments, please remember to click that thumbs up, give us a share, smash that subscribe, and ring our bell so you can stay in the know when it comes to our nerd content. This is Top 10 Nerd, and I'm your host, Amanda McKnight, reminding you to keep nerdy and read on.